I never planned to stop that night. I had a full tank of gas, a playlist of old blues tracks humming quietly through the speakers, and nothing ahead of me but endless wet highway. The storm came fast though, swallowing the road in a curtain of rain so thick. My headlights seemed to light nothing but fog and failure. My GPS froze somewhere past midnight, and even the familiar green signs disappeared, as if the world had shrunk to the inside of my car. When I saw the hotel tall, narrow, almost wedged between trees, I told myself it was a sign of luck, shelter, a place to dry off. I pulled in. I still remember the sound of the tires crunching over gravel, not the slick asphalt hum of a motel parking lot gravel, old and wet. The building looked like it belonged in a different decade, maybe even a different century. Its wooden facade glistened in the rain, paint peeling from the window frames, a single flickering porch light buzzing like a dying insect. No cars, no footprints, just the creak of the wind pushing against the door as I stepped inside. The lobby was warm, stale but warm. The air carried a scent I couldn't place at first, something between old paper and fading perfume, the kind that lingers on letters from the dead. There was no one at the reception desk, just a brass bell sitting on a dusty counter and a thick leather-bound guest book opened to a half-filled page. My fingers hesitated before touching it. The pen beside the book had dried ink along its nib, as if no one had used it in years. But the pages told a different story. Someone had signed in just yesterday, and the entry above that, a week before, then another. A slow, steady pattern, like breathing barely alive, but still moving. Then I saw my name. It was written in neat cursive, my full name, first and last, in my handwriting. No room number, no timestamp, just my name, already there. I stared at it longer than I should have, as if looking at it long enough would make it vanish or change into something less familiar. My pulse began to throb in my ears. A logical part of me whispered about coincidence, about shared names, mistakes in the book. But the handwriting, God, the handwriting was mine. I rang the bell once. The sound was sharp, bouncing against the wooden walls, swallowed quickly by the stillness. I called out. No answer. Behind the desk, a wall of keys hung like ornaments from another life, all brass, all numbered. Only one was missing, 313. I should have left. I know that now. I should have walked out and let the storm have me. But something about the place, it felt suspended. Not dead, just waiting, like a breath held too long. I stood there for minutes, maybe more, before the soft click of a latch made me turn. A door at the far end of the hallway had opened slightly, just enough to suggest invitation. I took the key anyway. I don't remember deciding to, but it was in my hand when I stepped down the hall, passing wallpaper the color of dried blood and paintings of people whose eyes followed me a bit too precisely. The number 313 was barely etched into the door, faded, worn. I didn't knock. I didn't need to. That was the last moment I remember feeling like I was still part of the world I came from. The room smelled of cedar and something older, dust maybe, or time. I set my bag down and glanced around. The wallpaper was floral, delicate, the kind you'd see in a grandmother's house, faded at the edges, peeling slightly near the corners. A small lamp flickered to life when I turned the brass switch. Its yellow light painted soft shadows across the room, making everything look like a memory I wasn't sure was mine. There was a journal on the desk, not mine, leather-bound, spine cracked, a ribbon tucked halfway through as if someone had meant to return. I didn't touch it, not yet. The window looked out onto the forest behind the building. Rain trailed down the glass like veins. No movement outside, no traffic sounds. just the quiet hiss of wind brushing against the frame. I sat on the bed. It didn't creak. That unsettled me more than if it had. No squeal of springs, no protest from old wood, just stillness. I think I said something aloud, just to hear myself talk. Maybe I asked if anyone was there. Maybe I asked why my name was in that book. The television was the old, kind, curved screen, dials on the front barely working. When I clicked it on, static burst into the room like a swarm of insects. I turned it off just as fast. There was a phone on the nightstand. Rotary. Beige. It rang once. Not a full ring. Just a half spasm, like a breath taken in surprise. I stared at it for a long time, my fingers hovering just above the receiver. It didn't ring again. Trying to shake the unease, I left the room. The hallway was longer than I remembered. The carpet swallowed my footsteps. Light fixtures buzzed faintly overhead, their glass covers stained with time. I counted the doors. 12. But the hallway wasn't long enough for 12. Room numbers skipped like a record with a scratch 308, 309, 311, then 313. No, 310. No, 312. No, 314. I paused near one of the doors, 309. From within, I heard something. A soft scrape, like a chair moving slowly across the floor. Then silence. I leaned in, listening. Another sound followed a murmur. It didn't come from a mouth. It sounded recorded, warped, like something underwater trying to form a word. I knocked. The sound stopped. The door didn't open. I kept walking. Downstairs, I found the dining room. Tables set, plates polished, forks placed perfectly beside knives, all untouched. A long table near the fireplace had 7 chairs, 5 of them pulled out slightly, like someone had stood up in a hurry. The other 2 remained tucked in, lonely and waiting. A woman stood behind the bar. I blinked. She hadn't been there when I entered the room. Middle-aged, thin, dressed in a navy blue dress with white buttons, her hair pulled back tight enough to make her temples shine. "Coffee?" she asked, her voice calm and without inflection. Sure," I said, moving toward the counter. She turned, filled a white mug from a pot that hadn't been steaming, and set it down gently. I reached for it. It was warm. "I didn't see anyone when I came in," I said, watching her closely. "No receptionist." "There's always someone," she replied. I waited. She didn't explain, just looked at me with eyes that didn't blink enough. "I think there's a mistake. My name's already in the book. Endu." She gave a small nod, as if I'd just confirmed something she already knew. "Room 313, she said. "I didn't choose that room." She looked past me, toward the hallway. "It chose you." I didn't know what to say to that. I took a sip of the coffee. It tasted like something I'd had before, not recently. Childhood, maybe. A cold morning. Something bitter but oddly familiar. When I looked back up, she was gone. Not in the next room. Not walking away, just gone. The cup in my hand, still warm, a thin ring of lipstick on the rim. I placed it back on the counter and stood alone in the empty dining room, surrounded by perfectly placed utensils, the scent of coffee in the air, and a growing sense that something here remembered me better than I remembered it. Then came the sound again. The bell, just once, a short, clean ding from the front desk, as if someone had just checked in. That night, I left the lamp on. It wasn't the kind of fear that makes you run or scream. It was quieter than that. A pressure, maybe, like something sitting too close, not touching, just watching. The kind of presence you try to ignore by focusing on the hum of electricity, the rhythm of your breath, the familiar warmth of sheets. I didn't sleep much. Sometime past 2 a.m., I heard the floorboards creak outside my room. Slow, careful, not the wind. The sound didn't sway or stumble like branches it had intention. I sat up, my heart quickening. The hallway had no lights, just slivers of yellow coming from under the doors. Mine was the only one left dark. I stood, walked barefoot to the door, and placed my ear against the wood. Silence. Then, whispering. Not words, just texture, like someone mouthing thoughts without voice. I held my breath, my pulse drummed in my head. The whispering stopped. I opened the door. No one. The hallway stretched out in both directions, impossibly long. It hadn't been this long before. I stepped out, just 1 foot, as if testing the air. The carpet felt colder here, damper. At the far end, room 308's door creaked open slightly. Not enough to see in, just a sliver. I closed my door and locked it. When I turned back to the room, the journal on the desk was open. I hadn't touched it. The ribbon marker was now at the final page. There was writing, not fresh, not inked, more like something pressed hard into the page, visible only by the way the paper had bent. A message, etched with the weight of someone desperate. Don't listen when it knocks. I stared at those words for a long time, running my fingers gently across the grooves. I flipped back through the journal. All pages were blank. Only that one sentence. No name, no date, just a warning. I didn't hear knocking that night, but I listened anyway. In the morning, the hallway had shrunk again, back to its original length. 12 doors, numbered wrong. Still missing 310. 312, 314. At breakfast, I saw a man sitting alone near the window, middle-aged, wearing a beige overcoat. He looked like he'd been there a while, not just in the hotel, but in that exact seat. His coffee was untouched. He stared at the window, not the outside world, but the reflection. When I sat across from him, he didn't flinch. "Did you check in last night too?" I asked, forcing casualness into my voice. He blinked slowly, as if waking from a long thought. "I've been here a while," he said. "How long?" He looked at me then. Really looked. His eyes were pale. Not cloudy, but pale, almost translucent. "I forget. Why don't you leave?" He smiled, faintly. "Some doors only open one way." Before I could ask more, the woman from the bar entered, carrying a tray of food that no one had ordered. She placed a plate in front of the man. Eggs, toast, untouched. She set a second plate in front of me. Identical. I didn't. "It's always the same," she said, and turned before I could finish. The man across from me leaned in slightly. "She knows. They all do. But no one tells you until it's too late." "Too late for what?" His expression didn't change. He reached into his coat and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. He slid it across the table toward me, a small brass key. "Keep this with you. It's not to your room. It's to the other door. If it finds you first, you won't need it." I opened the cloth. The key was warm, warmer than it should have been. When I looked up, the man was gone. Chair still pulled out, plate untouched. Coffee now steaming, though it had sat there cold for 15 minutes. That evening, I left the journal open. Blank pages fluttered slightly from a draft that didn't exist. I placed the brass key on the nightstand. At exactly 3:13 a.m., there was a knock, not at the door, at the window. I live on the 3rd floor. I didn't move. The knocking came again, slower, heavier, not human. And then, the voice, low, wet. It didn't speak English. It didn't speak at all, but I understood it. It was asking to be let in, not into the room. Into me. I didn't open the window. I sat there until the knocking stopped, until the whispers faded, until the silence returned and wrapped itself around the room like a second skin. But the damage had already been done. Something had seen me, acknowledged me, and worse, I had listened. By morning, my reflection was wrong. Not by much, just enough. In the bathroom mirror, the me that stared back didn't blink when I did. It was a fraction of a second off, like a video buffering behind real time. I tested it, blinked rapidly, smiled, tilted my head, and still off. Like it was delayed in deciding what to mimic. I smashed the mirror. Behind it was only wall, no hidden door, no passage, but the reflection lingered in my mind. I packed to leave, stuffed everything back into my bag, zipped it so hard the teeth jammed. I grabbed the brass key the man had given me and headed for the lobby. The desk was gone, not unattended, gone. Where there had once been a front counter was now a wall, smooth, seamless. No seams, no nails, no grain. Just clean wood stretching across the front of the hotel like it had always been that way. I ran my hands over it. No outline, no hinge. The exit door too had changed. Still glass, still framed in rusting iron, but it wouldn't budge. I pulled, pushed, kicked. It didn't lock. It simply refused to open. Behind me, footsteps. I turned, expecting the woman, or maybe the pale-eyed man. Instead, I saw myself, standing at the top of the stairs, same clothes, same wet hair, but not moving, just watching. I blinked, and it was gone. I stumbled backward, my breath catching in my throat. The hotel was folding, shifting, narrowing its rules like a trap adjusting its teeth. I needed air. I needed to find a window, a fire escape, a way out. I ran. Upstairs, the hallway had changed again. Now, there were only 3 doors. Room 308, Room 313, Room 309. I swear they weren't in that order before. Each door was closed, the air around them pulsing slightly, like they were breathing. I reached for 309 familiar, maybe safe. It opened on its own. Inside, the room was identical to mine. Same wallpaper, same desk, same mirror unbroken. A figure stood with its back to me, slim, wearing my clothes, my backpack slung over its shoulder. I tried to speak, but the words died in my throat. It turned around slowly, and its face was almost mine, but wrong. The mouth too wide, the eyes empty, as if someone had sketched me from memory, but forgot what a soul looked like. It took a step forward. I slammed the door. Behind me, 308 creaked open. This time I didn't look. I just ran. I chose 313. I don't know why. Maybe because I already belonged there. The door welcomed me. No resistance. Inside, darkness, deeper than the power being out. A kind of dark that absorbs you. I reached for the wall, found no switch, only smooth wood. I took a step. The door shut behind me. Silence. Then a voice. Soft, familiar, like mine but sadder. You're here. I froze. I've been waiting. My voice, from the darkness, not an echo, something else. Something living in the pitch. My throat clenched. I tried to speak, but all that came was a dry rasp. Then the lights flickered on, dim, yellow, revealing the room, and the thing sitting in the chair. It looked like me, identical, same clothes, same hair, same tired eyes, but older, worn, cracked at the edges. It smiled. Every guest becomes a host, it said. Every host waits for the next. I took a step back, fumbling for the door handle, but there wasn't one. You listened, it said. That's all it takes. I lifted the brass key. My hand trembled. It tilted its head. That's not for escape, it whispered. That's for replacement. What are you? I asked, my voice barely audible. Its smile widened. I'm what's left after you forget how to leave. The lamp buzzed. The shadows stretched. And in them, I saw others. Dozens of forms, all sitting, all watching, all with my face. The lights went out. I don't remember how I got back to my room. 1 second, I was in 313, facing that thing. The next, I was on the floor beside my bed, drenched in cold sweat, lungs burning like I'd been underwater. My shirt was torn. My knuckles were scraped raw. The brass key was still clutched in my palm so tight it had left a crescent-shaped bruise. I didn't move for a long time. I watched the light from the hallway creep under the door, like fingers reaching in. I stared at the mirror I'd broken, still shattered, still wrong. My reflection didn't blink with me. It watched. When I finally stood, the hotel groaned. Not a metaphor. The walls groaned, as if the wood itself resented being still. A low moan traveled down the corridor like a warning. The room pulsed faint but real, as if the space was breathing again. I opened the door and found the hallway empty, but the carpet was damp. My footprints weren't the only ones. A second set trailed off toward the stairs barefoot. Smaller than mine, childlike, moving fast. I followed, down the hall, past the numbered doors that no longer made sense. Room 307 now came after 313. The wallpaper had peeled back to reveal messages beneath carved into the drywall, scratched with something dull and persistent. Don't follow the voice. If you look back, it stays. Key equals trap. Each warning felt like it had been meant for me, or left by me, over and over. Different handwritings, same desperation. I heard the laughter before I saw her. A girl, no older than 7, dressed in a white nightgown stained with something brown at the hem. She stood at the end of the hallway, back turned to me, hair long and matted. She was humming, off key. Every instinct in me screamed to run, but she turned, and I froze. Her face was a blur, literally, as if someone had smeared her features in oil paint, eyes, nose, mouth, all distorted. She opened her arms, beckoning. Her voice echoed like 2 radios playing at once. Come home. I stepped back. She didn't move. The lights above me began to stutter, flickering faster and faster until they buzzed and popped, plunging the hallway into a jittery half-darkness. Then the sound. Running, dozens of feet, bare, slapping against the floor, coming from everywhere, upstairs, downstairs, behind every door. They were coming. I turned and ran. The hallway stretched. The doors multiplied. The air thickened. Each breath felt like pulling cotton through my lungs. I turned left, then right. The hotel shifted with me. Corridors changed direction, angled in impossible ways. Staircases led both up and down at once. I stumbled into the dining room, or what was left of it. The tables were gone, chairs overturned, plates shattered. The windows were bricked over now, as if they had never opened to begin with. And in the center of the room, a circle of chairs, 7, all facing inward. The bartender stood behind them. Still, her face was cracked now, like porcelain left in the sun too long. Her lips didn't move, but her voice filled the room. 6 hosts, One guest. I shook my head. What does that mean? You're the seventh. The lights above us dimmed. The chairs began to fill. Figures took their places slowly, mechanically. Each of them was me. Some younger, some older, all twisted in small ways. Smiles that never touched the eyes. Movements that lagged behind the intention. The echo of me, trapped and worn down. I backed away. This isn't real, I whispered. Reality is just repetition, she said. And you've repeated enough. The figures all turned to face me at once and spoke, not in unison, in echo. One starting a word, the next finishing. Layers of my own voice, stacked and looped. You stayed. Too long. The brass key vibrated in my hand. I held it up like a weapon. The bartender tilted her head, still trying to unlock a door in a house that wants you inside. My chest tightened. My vision blurred. I turned and ran again, back through the maze. Hallways that collapsed behind me, doors slamming shut on their own. My body screamed for air, for space, for time. I finally reached room 313. The door was open. Inside, the mirror was whole again, and my reflection was smiling. The reflection smiled first. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The me in the mirror tilted its head slightly, as if examining me from the inside out. Then it raised its hand, mimicking mine not perfectly. A beat too late. A twitch in the wrong finger. A hesitation like a lie forming in real time. And then it spoke, not aloud, in my head. You're the last piece. I stepped back. The room behind me had changed again. The door no longer led to a hallway but to the lobby. Only it was twisted, stretched vertically like a funhouse mirror. Walls ran too high. Lamps dangled from wires that looped in and out of the ceiling like roots. The furniture was wrong. Chairs with arms too long. Tables with legs that bent outward like broken limbs. The painting behind the reception desk, the one I'd barely noticed on the first night, now depicted a spiral staircase vanishing into a black hole and someone descending, tiny, alone. I was on that staircase, or I had been, or I would be. I walked slowly back toward the mirror, and this time, the reflection didn't follow me exactly. It watched, independent. It blinked when I didn't, smiled when I frowned. Its lips moved with a delay, mouthing something I hadn't yet said. Behind it, the shadows writhed, and I saw them. Others, not just versions of me, though they were there too, but things. Bent silhouettes with no mouths, figures with sunken eyes, and paper-thin skin stretched too tightly across their skulls. All watching, all silent. What are you? I whispered. My reflection stepped forward. We are the echo. Of what? The ones who stay, the ones who listen, the ones who see their name in the book and don't leave. But I didn't write my name. You did, it said. Not in this version. But one of you did. That was enough. I shook my head. You don't check in, it continued. Room 313 checks you. 10. The lights flickered. The floor buckled slightly, like the hotel was inhaling. The others, I said. The guests, what happened to them? It didn't answer. It didn't have to. The mirror shifted again, showing me glimpses like flashes of old film. A woman pounding on the walls of room 308 until her hands bled. A man in 309, curled in a fetal position, whispering the same word over and over. Remember. A child sitting perfectly still in a dining room that never aged, waiting for food that never came. And in each reflection the moment of replacement. When the guest broke, when the guest became the room. It feeds on pattern, my voice said. On rhythm. It doesn't hunt. It invites and waits. I backed away, clutching the brass key like it meant something, like it could still help. It opens one door, the voice said, but it doesn't lead out. It leads down. Oh, down where? To the basement. I hadn't seen a basement. No stairs, no signage, but as the thought formed, a section of the floor dissolved not with a bang, not with ceremony, just absence. A square hole, yawning in the center of the room. Steps descending into blackness. I didn't want to go, but the hotel wanted me to. The key in my hand grew warm, almost burning. I stepped closer to the opening, and from below came a smell earthy, damp, and underneath it all, the unmistakable scent of ash, burnt things, forgotten things. Then I heard them again, the whispers, but this time they weren't asking to come in. They were asking me to join. "You've already been here," they hissed. "This is not the first time you've stood on the edge." And I believed them, because something deep in my chest, some sliver of memory lodged in a place I couldn't access, agreed. I had stood here before, I had refused before, and I had lost. The stairs creaked, the dark below pulsed with anticipation. The reflection in the mirror no longer stood alone. Now there were dozens of me, all smiling, all waiting. I stepped onto the first stair. It groaned beneath my weight, a deep, wet sound, like wood soaked in blood. The dark swallowed me instantly. No light followed, no glow from above, only the echo of my own breath, shallow and sharp. One step, 2, 3. Something scraped below. I froze. The brass key in my hand throbbed not with heat now, but with a low vibration, like it wanted to be used. But there were no locks here, only descent. 10 steps, 12. The walls grew tighter, the air thicker. I couldn't see my hands anymore, could barely feel my feet. But I kept going, like the stairs were pulling me down instead of me walking them. Then, flat ground. The space opened up, but not much. The air smelled old, heavy with mildew, iron, and something sickly sweet. I reached out and touched stone, damp, breathing. I wasn't alone. He felt it, not saw it, felt it. The weight in the room shifted. My heart thudded, louder, louder, each beat like a drum summoning something forward. Then, movement to my left, a flicker, like someone stepping just out of reach. "Show yourself," I whispered. Nothing. Another flicker, behind me this time. Then a voice, right beside my ear. "You've been down here before." I spun, swinging the key like a blade, but hit nothing. My breath came in gasps now. My back hit the wall. A sound slithered up from the floor. Click. A lock turning, but not from a door. From inside my chest. I collapsed to my knees, clutching at my ribs. Something was opening. A memory, maybe. A version of me long buried. I saw flashes the first time I came here. The first time I ran. The first time I was replaced. And then, the voice again. "You are the echo now." Figures moved in the dark. Too many, surrounding me. I stood, staggering back, holding the key forward like a talisman. "Stay back." But they didn't move. They bowed, every single one, their heads dipping low, in unison, not in mockery, in recognition. One stepped forward. It was me, but starved, hollow-eyed, skin like old paper stretched over bones. His mouth opened and he whispered, "It's your turn." "No," I said. "Not this time." I turned and ran, up the stairs, 2 steps at a time. My lungs screamed, my legs burned, the key cut into my palm. I didn't care. Something screamed behind me. Not human, not even animal. A grinding, splitting howl like metal being torn from bone. I didn't look back. Each stair cracked under my feet, dissolving the moment I passed. The hotel was collapsing in on itself, dragging everything down. I burst through the opening at the top, and I was in the lobby again. Normal, bright, dust motes in sunlight. The desk was there. The door was open. The bell sat quietly on the counter, but no one was around. No wind, no sound. I ran for the exit. The door opened easily. Outside, the rain had stopped. The sun was rising. I took one step onto the gravel, then another. My car was still parked where I'd left it. I turned back. The hotel stood silent. Just bricks, just wood, just a building. But I knew better. Inside, it was waiting, and I had left something behind. I made it out. I drove until the sky burned orange and my gas tank blinked red. I don't remember the roads. I don't remember sleeping. Just waking up in a motel 3 towns over, dried blood under my nails, the brass key still clutched in my fist. I tried to throw it away, dropped it in a ditch, buried it, tossed it into a river, but it came back. Sometimes in my coat pocket, sometimes under my pillow, sometimes already in my hand before I'd realized I was holding it. I stopped trying. People asked me where I'd been, why I looked thinner, why I never turned off the lights anymore. I told them I'd gotten lost, that the storm had pushed me off track. They never asked again. I moved, changed numbers, took a night shift so I wouldn't have to sleep. I threw out every mirror in my apartment. The TV stays unplugged, the windows stay closed, but still, every now and then, just past 3 a.m., I hear it. Tap, tap, tap. Not at the door, at the window, and I live on the 9th floor now. There are dreams too, or memories, or something between the two. I'm back in the hotel, sitting at the dining room table, across from me myself, watching, smiling, tapping one finger on the wood in a slow rhythm, like a countdown I never hear finish. And in those moments I wonder, did I really leave? Or did it let me go just long enough to bring someone else back? Sometimes I feel myself losing time, slipping into long silences without realizing. I'll look into a dark window and see my reflection move before I do. And when I close my eyes, I see the book, the guest book, pages and pages of names, new ones, old ones, mine, again and again, and always the same note beside it. Checked in, room 313, no date, no checkout, just a spiral. And even now, as I sit here writing this, trying to make sense of it, I feel the key warming in my palm. I haven't looked behind me in hours, because I know